Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. How are we all doing, gang? The start of another week. And on this daily tech podcast, we've enjoyed some fantastic conversations over the years and featured everything from startups, creative trends, to interviews with tech behemoths such as Lenovo, IBM, Adobe, Microsoft. But today, I want to go directly to the shop floor, so to speak. I'm going to burst out of soundproof rooms and see what life's like inside the hustle and bustle of a tech company. Now, Ritam Gandhi is the founder and director of Studio Graphene, which is a London-based company that specialises in the development of blank canvas tech products. Not to mention apps, websites, augmented reality, IoT, and so much more. And the company has completed over 50 projects since being started in 2014. And they've been working with both entrepreneurs and product development teams within larger companies. And having plied his trade as a consultant for over 10 years at the likes of Bank of America, Merrill, Lynch and Accenture, Ritam established the digital agency Studio Graphene 4 years ago with the goal of supporting UK-based startups. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to London here in the UK so we can speak with Ritam Gandhi, the founder and director of Studio Graphene. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Ritam Gandhi. I am the founder of Studio Graphene. We've been going for 4.5 years. And I think the easiest way to describe who we are and what we do is that we are a startup that builds startups. So we have an interdisciplinary team of designers, engineers, product managers, marketeers, and we help create new blank canvas digital products from the ground up and help launch and market them. We've now also started doing that for corporates, so essentially a corporate behaving like a startup, and we help them achieve that. That's what we do.
Excellent. So on this daily tech podcast, we often talk about with startups and business leaders about how technology is transforming their business. And one of the things that really made you guys stand out and put you on my radar and why I asked you on the show today is Studio Graphene is a London-based company that specialises in the development, like you said, of blank canvas tech products. And that could mean apps, websites, augmented reality, IoT, and so much more. But can you just set the scene for everyone listening and tell them the kind of problems that Studio Graphene actually solves and what makes you guys unique?
So our view is that there's a lot of technology that exists today that is not fully utilized to its potential. And we think that using that technology in new ways is not as scary or expensive or slow as people envisage or the perception that we create. So we are trying to turn that tide and show that actually you can use technology that's readily available today to achieve new, better outcomes really quickly, and doing that by looking at everything from a blank canvas perspective or a clean slate and designing, building, launching new digital products really quickly and rapidly and learning from them is the way forward. And that's what we do. We do it across industries. We do it across different types of platforms and mediums such as mobile apps, web platforms, connected devices. So that's the whole IoT play. But really, our ethos across all of those is the same, that work quickly, design and build new products, take a blank canvas approach so that you're not loaded with technology debt based on legacy systems, etc. when you do those pieces of work.
So what is your backstory? Can you tell me a little bit more about your history at Studio Graphene and how you got where you are today?
Yeah. So in terms of my personal, I think a lot of it's driven by my personal experiences through my career. I worked in large enterprise technology firms and in large consultancies such as Accenture, working at large banks, and it was all big projects, slow delivery, very, very kind of cumbersome. And I was really keen to have those kind of shackles removed and work a lot quicker and iterate a lot faster and learn and innovate. And that's been kind of the premise behind Studio Graphene. Is it's all been about being fast, doing things in a way that's agile, doing things in a real way, none of the politics surrounding a lot of the large enterprise projects that you have today and have in the past. And so a lot of the backstories inform what we do today, which is, getting rid of that enterprise mentality, getting rid of that mentality where you're like, okay, we have this technology, we have this platform, and there's so much that's gone into it, so we have to stick with it rather than being scared of hitting the reset button. But that's been my background, personal background, and it's part of the reason why when Studio Graphene started, our entire focus was pure play startups, because we just believed that corporates couldn't innovate and corporates couldn't work in a inventive and fast and agile way. But actually now, I'd say 30% of our work is corporate work, but we are applying that startup mentality to corporates as well.
And since you guys started, I believe you've completed well over 50 projects. And since you started in 2014, working with both new entrepreneurs, product development teams, and like you said, much larger companies. But can you tell me a little bit more about that journey and those projects and the kind of success that you've enjoyed?
With a startup, the highs feel a lot higher, the lows feel a lot lower. And I always say this because I think until one recognizes that, it's very hard to actually enjoy riding those waves. So the journey has had its ups and downs. And especially when you're working with startups are typically very cash strapped, have really high standards in terms of what they need to achieve, have very short time frames. Everything. I remember with one of my product managers sitting across with a client, and he said to the client, so let me just understand, what you're asking us for is to do this thing for less money, faster, and actually do more than what was originally in scope. And he's like, with all seriousness, he responded, and he said, yes. And I think that's been the hardest challenge with our journey, is we've been held to extremely high standards. We've had to deliver fast at low cost, etc. But I think that's also made us extremely efficient and capable in our delivery through that process. So the journey has really made us an awesome delivery team, is what I believe.
And you do have offices in London, Switzerland, and India too. So were these locations strategically placed, and do you plan to continue your expansion on a global scale, or is it too soon to talk about that?
So London has been and will always be our hub. We think it's an amazing city that's a melting pot for people from all over the world, and there's some amazing opportunities to build great technology products. Switzerland's a bit of a funny one. One of our engineers who worked with us in London, who's Swiss, moved to Switzerland, and he's effectively become our Swiss representative. And I think there's an interesting play in Switzerland as well, but at this stage it's very small. Yeah. India was driven by the fact that I think London has had and continues to have a huge shortage of engineering talent, and we needed to look outside the UK. And because of my personal background, having been born and brought up until I was 13 in India, I felt that I personally understood how to set up a team there, although I personally struggled despite that background. But that was the idea. We looked outside London because of the lack of engineering talent, and India seemed to be an obvious place for us to set that up. And that's, that hybrid model for us has been very successful, because a lot of people go a bit too much to one extreme, whereas we've kept a lot of our delivery in London, we've kept a lot of our delivery outside London, but we've struck that balance.
And is there any future expansions, such as the US? Is anything like that on the cards?
So we've been servicing a few clients from the US based in London. I'm a big believer in do less but do it well. So I'm really keen. I feel like there is so much opportunity in the UK and in London that I'm very, very, in fact, even in the UK, I typically try and say that all our efforts, etc., should focus on London. We've worked with clients up north, etc., but really our focus area is London. I feel there's so much just to even do in one city. So definitely a huge focus in and around London, and less so thinking about international expansion at this stage.
Now, I read a great quote from you guys recently where you said nobody wants to spend months building a website only to discover it doesn't integrate with your shiny new lead management software a year later. Can you expand on that and where that came from? It sounds like there's a bit of experience there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've done so much stuff where we've done wasted work And that's the most heartbreaking thing when you're a startup and you're putting, when startups are putting their savings behind it, etc. And a huge part of our approach and strategic view to things is to learn as quickly as you can earlier on and plan things, and have that understanding of what works and what doesn't work. I think too many people follow an approach in the thinking. So whilst people talk about being agile, actually being agile needs planning as well. So you need to plan to be flexible and how you achieve that flexibility and how you move fast. A lot of people build websites, etc., without taking that step back and thinking about what that website needs to do for them. And so many people we watch who basically build and spend loads of money building a digital product or a website, and then realize they've not thought about all these things, like what it needs to integrate with, what it needs to do, etc. And then effectively they have to hit a reset button and go back and do it again. So yeah, definitely loads of heartbreaking experiences where we've seen some serious personal damage done to people because they've not thought about things up front.
And one of the things I really love about what you're doing here is how you give back to the community as well. Because I read that you recently visited Leighton's Lantern of Knowledge Secondary School, where you actually taught them the highs and lows of digital and coached them through their very own digital challenges. But what did you learn from these digital natives? I suspect that it was a two-way process, wasn't it?
100%. So the biggest learning from it was how generationally there's such a rapid change in terms of the understanding people have. And I was shocked, and so was the rest of the team, at how smart these kids were and how much understanding they had without any formal training. So for instance, we did a workshop where we worked with them to wireframe some mobile app screens, and how accurate their ability to do these screens was. The understanding of user experience and how mobile app design should work was just phenomenal, and it was very impressive. So it was definitely a two-way learning. It was also learning that actually as we move forward, the amount of digital understanding that kids growing up have is phenomenal.
So for anybody listening, whether it's a startup founder or a big corporate business there, why do you think that every new venture needs the right technology partner right by their side? And is that advice also for both established firms as well as startups?
Yeah, I always think that there is a chronology to how you build a venture, and you need the right skill sets involved in building that venture. So always think about what's your venture, what are you trying to achieve, what are the objectives? To achieve those objectives, what delivery skills you need and who has them. Don't start with saying, I know someone who is an iOS developer, so I'm going to build an iOS app. It should start with, I, for my venture, need an iOS app. Hence, I need to find a designer who's comfortable designing iOS apps and a developer who's comfortable building iOS apps and so on. So always start with that chronology in mind and getting the chronology right. What do you want to achieve? Why do you want to achieve it? The how comes afterwards. And the other piece is that kind of leads on from that. Always look for people with those specialist skills that are capable of working as a team. A big part of our focus is, I can have a great designer, I can have a great developer, but if they don't work together as a team, we won't create a great product. So a lot of my personal focus is creating that interdisciplinary team that works well together.
So what's next for Studio Graphene? Is there anything else you can share with us about the road ahead for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of our focus is, so we don't want to build a business that, or effectively build a digital business. We are still a services firm. We build digital businesses for other businesses. But our focus is on making that process for our clients and other businesses a lot easier. So one of the initiatives that we've kicked off and we are investing our own money on is building a product set called Define, which, as the name suggests, it helps you define what digital venture you're trying to build at a granular level. So it kind of takes you through that journey, through the digital tool we're building, which helps you define that product and the product roadmap, and essentially bridges the gap between your vision for that digital venture and getting it down to the granular enough level of detail that an engineer can work from it. Because we believe a lot of these ventures go wrong in the way the specification for that digital product's written.
And for anyone listening that just want to find out more about the kind of work that you're doing and how maybe you can help them, can you just remind them of where they can find you guys online, and also maybe just contact a member of your team if they've got any questions about our conversation today?
Yep, absolutely. We'd love to hear from everyone. Our website is studiographene.com. That's Graphene. All our social handles are also at Studio Graphene. And if you would like to send us an email, please feel free to reach out by emailing hello@studiographene.com. We are also currently running a challenge called Build My App, where if you have a not-for-profit idea and would like to share that idea with us, we are offering to build the first version of that iOS prototype for free for the winning participant.
Well, I love what you guys are doing and how you're actually using technology to bring ideas to life for both startups and large businesses. And in a world where people often turn to a friend of a friend just to fix a problem or bring something live, I love how your ethos of showing that importance of actually being a tech partner that can bring the long-term vision to life. I think it's so important and something that so many companies miss. So a big thank you for coming on the show and just sharing that story with me today. Thank you.
Been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Neil.
As someone that waved goodbye to corporate IT life to pursue my own path and talk to you guys located all over the world every day and writing content for businesses all over the world too, I completely get this huge shift of how we see employment now. Because more and more people are questioning why they need to be sat at the same desk for nearly 40 years. And actually, they've got something more to offer the world. And anyone that's seen the documentary on minimalism on Netflix, combined with the ranks of Gary Vaynerchuk, will tell you that it's never been easier to build a side gig and bring your own business alive until it's time to make that final jump. So when I read Studio Graphene's survey, it revealed in terms of what is holding people back, it's 46% of UK adults said that they feel that they just lack the skills and knowledge to be an entrepreneur. And 51% of women are more likely than 40% of men to feel that way. And what I love about what they're doing at Studio Graphene is that they're enabling people to bring their vision to life by just being a tech partner that they need. Nobody needs to know it all, and you shouldn't be afraid to lean on others and leverage their expertise. But over to you. If you've got a similar story or if any of the words on this episode have resonated with you, please, I want to hear from you. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Get me on Twitter or Instagram @NeilC.Hughes. I'd love to hear your insights and your expertise on that. So I'm going to return tomorrow with another great guest, but it's time for me to sneak out the back door now and say a big thank you to today's guest and an even bigger thank you to each and every one of you listening wherever you are in the world. I truly appreciate it. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.